Hi, I'm Ryan from Amber Elm. I hope you guys had a great couple of weeks. I've actually been kind of anxious and excited to make this video, and not necessarily because of the content that I'm going to be talking about today, but because I took a week off, and I've only been making videos for a couple of months, but not making one for a week felt kind of weird. It also felt like I had so much time. Like, so much time. Like, does YouTube really consume that much of my time? I shouldn't think about this too much. Anyways, the reason I took a week off was to sort out sort of my video and my film settings. I was really tired of using these as my lighting for my videos, so I upgraded everything a little bit, and now hopefully the whole filming process should be a little bit easier, and I can kind of make more videos and all that. So anyways, to the point of the video. A couple of weeks ago, I made a video about VCV Rack, and specifically CMIE. This week, I wanted to share the little composition that I wrote with CMIE, and also I wanted to share some of the pitfalls about VCV Rack that I sort of stumbled upon this week. And lastly, I want to mention Modular Grid, specifically what it is and some pretty useful use cases for it. So, and just really quick, I made timestamps for the video, so if you want to skip around, feel free. Okay, so here's that little piece that I made with CMIE. So this is sort of where VCV Rack shines for me. It's all about controlling it with live inputs or with MIDI. A few weeks ago, I found this video where Omri Cohen recreated Max Richter's On the Nature of Daylight with his modular unit. it inspired me to want to create a piece of my own, so I decided to plan out a piece that VCV Rack would just perform with no input from me. I had to try to calculate how long each chord progression would be, what clock settings to use for the melodies versus the chords, the ambiances versus the melodies, and then sequence them all with a number of clocks to make sure that everything would play when I wanted them to. I got about an hour and a half into that process, and it sort of dawned on me that all of this could be infinitely easier in my DAW with me just composing it. And I suddenly really questioned why I was even using VCV Rack at all, because I could make things pretty similar in Logic with a lot less effort. And it started to feel like a toy that I realized I was too old for. It was a stressful few minutes. But I quickly reassured myself with a few thoughts, and those were, one, I'm still super new at using VCV Rack and Modular in general, so I'm sure there are 1,000 different ways to use it that I haven't even considered yet. So yeah, thank God for that thought. Two is Modular is still great for making ambient generative music. It's actually easier for me in VCV Rack than it is in Logic. Three, I can use it as a quasi-collaborator, just see the CMIE video. And four, it isn't meant to be used for everything. Just like I don't use my synthesizers or guitar for every track that I write, I won't use VCV Rack or Modular for every track that I write either. Realizing that was a really great moment because I stopped thinking of it as its own system or its own workflow and started thinking of it as I do with all of my other gear, as a tool. And just as I wouldn't use a hammer to change a light bulb, I won't use VCV Rack as my answer for every musical idea that I have. It seems pretty obvious saying it now, but if you're anything like me, when I find something new, I have the tendency to dive in pretty deep and can get lost in it pretty quickly. So yeah, that was my big aha moment this week. The last thing I wanted to mention this week was Modular Grid. Someone commented on my last video about VCV Rack and how they weren't a big fan of it because the options were essentially limitless and they felt like they worked better under kind of tight constraints so they could, be creative with what they were using. And I totally get that. And actually, I agree with it most of the time. It made me reassess, though, how I wanted to use VCV Rack going forward. And because the goal is eventually to own an analog modular system, I went over to Modular Grid and built one. So you can basically plan out your entire system. It gives you the price for your completed unit, the power you need, and it really gets you thinking more about the logistics of modular. I wanted to add some cool Strymon reverb and delay, but those units were huge, and I would have had to either buy a new housing unit or ditch the other modules that I knew I wanted. So it made me have to really get down to what I wanted my system to do and make choices about what specific modules would accomplish it with the limited space that you have in a given case. It was really helpful, and once I had it built, I recreated that unit as closely as I could in VCV Rack. And so now I use it as my default setting, and I plan on trying to stay contained to that unit for the most part as much as I can, just to kind of also really help me understand what that unit can do and if I really want that to be my unit. So now I feel like I'm using VCV Rack as sort of a testing ground for the physical modular unit that I eventually plan on building. So anyways, thank you for that comment and for pointing that out because it led me down that road and I wouldn't have had that thought on my own. And that's really why I encourage people to comment on the videos. It's because, if I got that value out of it, I'm sure other people did as well. So comment below on the videos with any thoughts or questions that you have. It's really great for the community. That's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching. I will see you guys next week.